everybody, and welcome to Major Misconduct. I'm the Major. The Misconduct is back, everybody. Curt Keilback has arrived at Foreplay Sports Bar, and this week we have a lot to talk about. Mostly things are on his mind because he was at the lake doing nothing but thinking
and chopping down bush.
And chopping down
dead bush from storms, but that's okay. I'm all scratched up. I look like I've been abused.
But watching football too.
And I've been watching football. It's actually kind of sad, you know. There was the other night I was watching a doubleheader in football, and I'm looking outside, and it's I don't know, beautiful, beautiful night. But anyway, yeah, I was watching football.
Should have been on the golf course.
Let's
start with a couple of things. First of all, we may as well start with the Bombers. It's always a good place to start. Let's start with the Bombers. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers gave up 550-plus yards of offense to the Montreal Alouettes. They were beaten 41-30, and the last touchdown was meaningless. So it was really 41-23. The Bombers have been outscored 74-46 in 2 games, and they've given up 880 yards of offense to the opposition. In 3 games last year, they were only at about 830. This is absolutely dreadful right now. But the key to football is adjusting to your problems, as the Edmonton Eskimos have done. They looked bad, or they scored 1 point this weekend. No, but wait a minute. Excuse me. The Toronto Argonauts have done. The Toronto Argonauts scored 15 points against an Eskimos team that only scored 1 against Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan only scored 17.
That was the worst game I've ever seen. It was
6-1 at the end of 3 quarters.
Absolute boredom.
Dreadful. But the Argos jumped back, scored 39 the next week against Calgary. They made the adjustments necessary. My apologies to the Argos. It was the Argos that made the adjustments. They lose the first week 19-15, come back, win 39-36. Can Winnipeg make the adjustments necessary? Or do they have the players, do they have the capability to make the adjustments to start turning this thing around? Because it might get uglier.
Well, it could get uglier, but you know, the encouraging thing is for 3 quarters in both games, they were relatively competitive, and I thought, in fact, the first game in BC, defensively they played well, which was their hallmark last year. And then last week against Montreal, offensively they looked better, albeit against a less dominating defense in the Montreal Alouettes. So, I mean, there are some signs, and I mean, they had the opportunity to close the gap the other day. They had that third down play on the 6-yard line, by example, which led to some controversy, and I got no problem with what Paul LaPolice did in that play. You got to go for it somewhere along the line. Want to go for it now, but I mean, so they were relatively close through most of those games. They just don't seem to have it for the full 60.
Well, I don't think it's that they don't have it for the full 60. I think that they play as well as they can on defense until the other team starts to roll, and once they start to roll, they're dead. They had no answer for Brandon Whitaker. They had no answer the week before for Travis Lulay and G. Roy Simon. Every week they're facing somebody of which they have no answer.
Wait till they play Edmonton.
Now they play Edmonton, a team that put up 19 points the first week against Toronto, and then a point in Saskatchewan, but they did put up 19 at home. So they've at least proven they can play at home. The Bombers don't get to play at home until July 26th because of a stupid decision to try to convince people they were going into the new stadium so they would play 4 games on the road.
Which there was no chance of it all to begin with.
Not only that, now I listened to the John Liu interview with Garth Butchko, the president of the Blue Bombers. I listened to the interview closely at halftime. And Garth Butchko said, I hope we're in the new stadium starting the 2013 season. He made no guarantee that they'll be in there next year. Boy, you talk about getting your timetable mixed up.
Well, it's been very poorly run, the way they've worked on this new stadium. I mean, it's been a debacle since the beginning. And it's going to be a great stadium. You and I have both driven by it. It's going to be probably the best in the league.
No question.
But when it's ready, it's ready. But it has to be ready by 2013.
Well, I was out there the other day for the Red River Cup, and they don't have the canopy done on one side even close. And the last thing they have to put in is the field. They're still arguing over the IT. I mean, they're a long way from being finished.
They need leadership.
A long, long way. They need to spend some money.
Yep.
They need to put some deadlines on the construction company. That's what they need to do. Because if you let a construction company take all the time they want, they'll build you the perfect building. It'll be perfect. But it won't be done for another couple of years if you let them do that. Anyway, when we come back, I want to talk about the best part of the Bomber offense, which is DeMond Washington. He might be the type of player that is the best part of all the offense in the Canadian Football League. This is Major Misconduct. It's live from Foreplay Sports Bar. I'm Scott, he's Curt, and we're on 360Winnipeg.ca.